John had been feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders for as long as he could remember. Ever since his wife had passed away in a car accident 3 years ago, he had been raising his daughter, Lily, alone. The little girl was only 5 at the time, and he had no idea how he would manage, but somehow they had survived. Still, survival came with its own exhaustion, and lately, it felt like the tiredness had seeped into his very bones. Every morning, he would wake before dawn, preparing breakfast and getting Lily ready for school. He made sure she had her favorite cereal, packed her lunch, and reminded her to take her backpack. Even simple tasks that once felt easy now seemed monumental. Then he would rush to work, trying to make up for the financial gap left by his wife's passing. John worked long hours, often late into the night, and despite his efforts, it felt like the bills were always stacking higher. He often found himself staring at the ceiling in the middle of the night, wondering if he was doing enough, if he could do more, or if he was failing his daughter. Their house was small but comfortable, and Maria, their maid, had been with them for nearly 2 years. She was quiet and kept to herself most of the time, but she was efficient and always seemed to know exactly what needed to be done around the house.
Ow.
John had trusted her implicitly, which is why he had never thought twice when she mentioned extra work or came in early to tidy up. She was part of the household routine, almost invisible in the best way possible. Yet, over the past few weeks, John had noticed something different. Little things seemed out of place. A bill that had been paid twice, an envelope missing from the desk, or Lily mentioning that something had changed at school without him knowing. These small discrepancies nagged at him. He tried to brush them off at first, telling himself he was overthinking, that maybe his fatigue was making him notice things that didn't matter. But deep down, a knot of worry kept tightening in his stomach. That Saturday, after a particularly long week at work, John returned home feeling more drained than usual. He dropped his bag by the door and called out for Lily, who was playing in her room. She ran out, her little face lighting up as she held up a drawing she had made for him. Despite the exhaustion, John smiled and hugged her, telling her how much he loved it. He placed her artwork on the fridge and told her to go wash up for dinner. Then, with a sigh, he turned to Maria, who was quietly folding laundry in the living room. He hesitated for a moment, unsure how to bring up the topic that had been troubling him. Maria noticed the look on his face and tilted her head slightly, a subtle gesture of curiosity and concern. "Maria," John began slowly, trying to keep his voice steady. "Can we talk for a moment?" She nodded silently, setting the laundry basket aside. John motioned for her to sit on the couch, and she did so, her hands neatly folded in her lap. He felt his heart race. This was not an easy conversation to start. He had trusted her completely, and the thought of doubting her felt almost unbearable. Yet he knew he needed answers. "I've noticed a few things around the house lately," he began. "Yes. Some bills seem to have been paid twice, some papers have gone missing, and Lily mentioned things that I didn't know about. I need to understand what's going on." Maria's eyes widened slightly, and she looked down at her hands. John felt a pang of guilt immediately, wondering if he had hurt her feelings. He took a deep breath and softened his tone. "I'm not accusing you of anything, Maria. I just need to know if something is wrong, or if there's something I should be aware of. I can't manage everything on my own, and sometimes I feel like I'm missing something important." For a few moments, there was only silence. Maria's lips pressed together as she seemed to gather her thoughts. Then slowly she began to speak. "Sir, there's something I haven't told you. I didn't want to worry you, and I didn't want to cause any problems. I wanted to help." John's curiosity piqued, and he leaned forward slightly. "Help? How? What do you mean?" Maria hesitated, then continued. "I noticed how hard you were working, how tired you were, and I saw that some bills were piling up. I didn't want Lily to go without anything, so I took care of a few things on my own, paid some bills early, helped with school fees, and made sure the house was running smoothly. I didn't want you to worry." John felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, surprise, and a deep, aching gratitude. But at the same time, he felt tears pricking at the corners of his eyes. He hadn't realized just how much Maria had been doing. Behind the scenes, quietly taking care of them without making a fuss. It was a revelation that shook him to his core. Maria, I don't know what to say, he whispered, his voice trembling. I had no idea. I thought something was wrong. I thought I had failed in some way. Maria shook her head gently. No, sir. You've done so much already. You're raising Lily on your own, and you're doing a wonderful job. I just wanted to make things a little easier for you, that's all. John felt a lump in his throat as he struggled to hold back his tears. He had been so caught up in his own stress and fatigue that he hadn't noticed the quiet sacrifices that others were making for him. He realized how easy it had been to overlook the kindness that often went unnoticed. For the next few minutes, they sat in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Lily's laughter floated in from the next room, a reminder of why he had been fighting so hard every day. John reached out and gently placed a hand over Maria's, his eyes glistening. Maria, truly, I can't tell you how much this means to me. I've been blind to it, and I'm sorry. Maria smiled softly, a quiet strength in her gaze. It's okay, sir. You've done enough already. That's why I wanted to help. John took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't felt in months. For the first time in a long while, he felt seen, not just as a provider, but as a father struggling to do his best. And he realized that sometimes the people who quietly support us are the ones we least expect, yet they make the biggest difference. As the evening sunlight streamed through the windows, John made a silent promise to himself. He would pay more attention, appreciate the efforts of those around him, and never take the quiet kindness of others for granted. In a long time, he felt that even in the chaos and exhaustion of life, there was hope and love surrounding him, sometimes in ways he had never imagined. The next morning, John woke up feeling a mix of emotions. He still thought about Maria's revelation from the night before. He felt guilty for having doubted her, but at the same time, he was deeply grateful for her quiet support. He got out of bed, careful not to wake Lily, and moved through the familiar routine of making breakfast and preparing her for school. Every small task felt lighter that day because his heart was a little freer, less burdened by worry. After dropping Lily at school, John decided to take a walk before heading to work. He needed time to think, to process everything Maria had shared. The air was cool and fresh, and he let himself enjoy the simple pleasure of the sun on his face. As he walked, he thought about all the sacrifices he had been making, and he realized how little he had noticed the efforts of others. He knew now that he had been so focused on his own struggles that he had missed the quiet gestures that kept their home and life running smoothly. Back at home, Maria was tidying up as usual. She moved quietly, efficiently, and without complaint. John noticed her calm presence and felt a new respect for her. She had been carrying a weight of her own, helping them without ever asking for recognition. He knew he wanted to find a way to show her how much he appreciated her, but he didn't know where to start. He decided to call Maria into the kitchen. She looked up from the counter, surprised but attentive. John took a deep breath, trying to express his gratitude in a way that felt sincere. Maria, I want you to know that what you did, it means more to me than I can put into words. You didn't have to, and yet you did it anyway. I've been so focused on my own struggles that I didn't see how much you were helping. I want to make sure you know I see it now, and I'm thankful for everything. Maria's eyes softened, and she smiled quietly. Thank you, sir. I never wanted recognition. I just wanted to help. It felt important to me, for Lily and for you. John nodded, feeling tears prick his eyes again. This acknowledgement of her efforts was just as important as the help she had been giving. He thought about how easy it is to take people's kindness for granted, to assume everything is as it seems, and he made a mental note to be more aware, more appreciative in the future. As the day went on, John found himself thinking about Maria's dedication. He began to notice all the little things she did that he had previously overlooked: the neatly folded laundry, the organized kitchen, the way she remembered to leave little notes for Lily about her school projects. Each gesture was a reminder of the care she had shown over time, and he felt a new sense of connection and respect for her. During lunch, John decided to call a quick family meeting. He invited Maria to join him and Lily at the small table in the living room. Lily looked curious, sensing the serious but gentle tone in her father's voice. John began by explaining that he had recently learned about the ways Maria had been helping the family. Lily's eyes widened in surprise, and she looked at Maria with admiration. "You've been helping us all this time?" Lily asked, her voice filled with awe. Maria nodded, smiling softly. "Yes, Lily. I wanted to make sure things were easier for you and your father." Lily reached out and hugged Maria tightly, whispering a small thank you. John watched this moment with a full heart. He realized that Maria had become more than just an employee. She was part of their family in a way he hadn't fully recognized before. He felt a wave of relief and warmth, knowing that Lily had someone watching over her with care and kindness. After lunch, John returned to work with a lighter heart, carrying the thought of Maria's sacrifices with him. At the office, he found himself more patient and thoughtful than usual. Reflecting on how often we overlook the efforts of others, the memory of Maria's quiet diligence reminded him that true kindness often goes unnoticed, and that it was important to acknowledge it whenever possible. Meanwhile, Maria continued her work at home, carrying out her tasks with her usual quiet dedication. She didn't expect thanks or recognition, but she felt a deep satisfaction in knowing she had helped a family she cared about. There was a sense of pride in her actions, not for reward, but for the knowledge that she had made life a little easier for John and Lily. As the evening approached, John returned home to find the house in perfect order. Lily ran into his arms, chattering about her day at school. Maria was preparing dinner, humming softly, and John felt a profound sense of gratitude. He sat down with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to be more attentive and appreciative in his interactions with the people who quietly supported him every day. That night, as John lay in bed, he reflected on the day's events. He realized that life is not only about enduring struggles and managing responsibilities, but also about noticing the kindness of those around us. He thought about Maria's secret efforts and how they had gone unseen for so long. It made him wonder how many other acts of kindness he had overlooked in his own life. He decided that he would not let this opportunity pass without making a change. He would be more present, more observant, and more grateful. He would show Maria and Lily that he recognized and valued the sacrifices made on their behalf. And most importantly, he would never take their care for granted again. John drifted to sleep with a sense of peace, knowing that the bonds of trust and care in his household had grown stronger. He felt hope and optimism for the days ahead. Understanding that the quiet love and dedication of those around him were invaluable, life would still have its challenges, but he knew that with gratitude and attention, he could navigate them more gracefully and with a fuller heart. The next morning, John woke up with a heavy but strangely comforting feeling in his chest. He thought about how Maria had been quietly helping them all this time. He couldn't stop reflecting on the extent of her kindness. He watched Lily get ready for school, tying her hair into 2 neat braids, and noticed how cheerful she was despite the little struggles that life had put in front of them. It was moments like these that reminded him why he kept going, why he pushed through the exhaustion and stress. John was still shaken by Maria's revelation. He realized how little he truly knew about the people he relied on. He had spent so much time worrying about bills, deadlines, and work, that he hadn't stopped to appreciate the silent efforts that were keeping his life together. Maria had done more than just her job. She had stepped in as a quiet guardian, protecting the family from stress and worry in ways John hadn't even imagined. After dropping Lily at school, John returned home and decided to talk to Maria again. He wanted to understand more about how she had managed to do everything without letting anyone know. Maria looked up from her cleaning, noticing the serious expression on John's face. "Can we talk for a minute?" he asked gently. She nodded and followed him into the living room. John gestured for her to sit on the couch. He took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Maria, I can't stop thinking about what you told me last night. I need to know. How did you manage all of this on your own? The bills, the school fees, keeping the house running. It's more than anyone should have to handle." Maria hesitated, as if weighing her words carefully. "Sir, I've been managing it slowly, bit by bit. I've saved money from my own wages, and sometimes I've borrowed small amounts from friends to make sure nothing went unpaid. I didn't want to ask for help because I knew you were struggling, and I wanted to make sure Lily didn't miss anything. It wasn't easy, but I wanted to do it." John felt his heart tighten. The thought of someone else quietly bearing so much responsibility for his family overwhelmed him. He felt a wave of emotion that he could barely hold back. "Maria, I don't know how to thank you. I don't even know how to begin. You've carried a burden that wasn't yours to carry, and you did it out of kindness." Maria shook her head, her expression calm but firm. "I didn't do it for thanks, sir. I did it because I care about you and Lily. Seeing you struggle, I wanted to make things better. I couldn't stand by and watch." John sat in silence, feeling a mixture of awe and gratitude. He had spent so much time feeling alone, thinking that he was the only one trying to keep the family afloat. He hadn't realized that someone else had been fighting alongside him quietly, selflessly. The weight of his own exhaustion suddenly felt a little lighter, knowing that Maria had been looking out for them. Later that day, John went to the bank to take care of some personal matters. As he sat in the lobby waiting for his number to be called, he thought about how often life presented people who quietly helped others without expecting anything in return. He thought about how many small acts of kindness went unnoticed every day, and how important it was to recognize them. The realization hit him hard. He had been so focused on surviving that he hadn't taken the time to notice the love around him when he returned home. He found Maria helping Lily with her homework. The sight warmed him. Maria's patience and gentle guidance with Lily reminded him that her role in their lives went far beyond cleaning and cooking. She had become a mentor, a supporter, a protector in ways he had never anticipated. John cleared his throat gently, and both Maria and Lily looked up. He smiled, his eyes soft with emotion. "I've been thinking, Maria, you've done so much for us, and I want you to know that your efforts haven't gone unnoticed. I've been blind to a lot of the things you've done, and I'm truly sorry for that." Maria's smile was small but sincere. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot to hear. I only ever wanted to help." Lily jumped up from her chair and hugged Maria tightly. "Thank you for helping me, Maria," she exclaimed. John watched this exchange and felt a tear slip down his cheek. The bond between Maria and his daughter was stronger than he had realized, and it made him feel a deep sense of relief and gratitude. As evening approached, John decided to prepare a small dinner for the three of them. It wasn't anything fancy, just a simple meal, but he wanted it to be a gesture of appreciation. He worked in the kitchen alongside Maria, who guided him gently through some of the tasks. The act of cooking together felt different. It felt like a shared effort, a new level of connection. While they ate, John felt a warmth that had been missing from their home for a long time. The conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and light teasing. Lily shared stories from her day at school, while Maria offered quiet encouragement. For the first time in a long while, John felt that the house was truly a home, not just a place where he provided shelter, but a place where love, care, and support flourished. After dinner, John tucked Lily into bed and kissed her forehead, whispering a quiet goodnight. As he returned to the living room, he found Maria sitting quietly, looking at him with a calm expression. He sat down beside her, feeling the need to say something more. "Maria," he began, "I've been thinking about everything you've done. I know I can't repay you, and I don't expect anything. But I want you to know that I will never forget it. I promise to be more attentive, more grateful, and to show my appreciation every day. You've given us more than you realize." Maria's eyes glistened slightly, and she nodded. "Thank you, sir. That's all I ever wanted to feel appreciated, to know that my efforts mattered." John felt a deep sense of peace as he reflected on the evening. He realized that life was full of unexpected acts of kindness, and that the people who quietly supported us often made the biggest difference. Maria's selflessness had not only helped him and Lily, but it had also reminded him of the importance of noticing, acknowledging, and cherishing the love and care around him before going to bed. John sat by the window and looked out at the quiet street. He thought about the journey ahead and the challenges that would inevitably come. But he felt a renewed strength, knowing that they were not alone. There was someone who had silently supported them through the hard times, and that made all the difference. He knew that from this day forward he would see the world differently, not just in terms of survival, but in terms of the love, kindness, and human connections that made life worth living. The following morning, John woke up earlier than usual, feeling a strange mixture of hope and responsibility. The previous days had opened his eyes to the quiet kindness that surrounded him, and he knew he couldn't take it for granted. He moved through the morning routine with Lily, helping her get ready for school and preparing breakfast with a lightness in his step that he hadn't felt in a long time. The house seemed brighter somehow, as if the small acts of care and appreciation had breathed new life into it after dropping Lily at school. John returned home, feeling the need to talk to Maria again. He found her in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared the house for the day. The sight reminded him of how much she did behind the scenes, and a deep gratitude swelled within him. He motioned for her to sit with him at the small table by the window. "Maria," he began gently, "I've been thinking a lot about everything you've done for us. I want to understand more, because I feel like there's so much I haven't noticed until now. How did you manage it all without ever letting me know?" "It must have been exhausting." Maria looked down at her hands for a moment before speaking. "It wasn't always easy, sir. There were days when I felt tired or worried that I was making a mistake. But I kept thinking about Lily and how important it was for her to have a stable home. That kept me going. I knew that if I could help, even in small ways, I was making a difference." John's heart ached with a mix of guilt and admiration. He realized how much pressure she had quietly borne to ensure their family's well-being. "Maria, I don't know how to repay you. I never realized how much you've sacrificed for us. I feel like I've been blind to everything you've done." She shook her head softly. "Sir, you don't need to repay me. Just knowing that Lily is happy and that you are not alone in this, that is enough for me. I wanted to help because I care about your family, not because I wanted recognition." John felt tears welling up in his eyes. He took a deep breath and leaned back in his chair, thinking about the moments he had missed, the little things that had made their life easier without him realizing it. Maria had been more than just a maid. She had been a silent guardian, keeping the family afloat while he fought his own battles. He finally understood how easy it is to take people's efforts for granted, to focus so much on survival that the kindness of others becomes invisible. As the day progressed, John found himself more aware of the small ways Maria helped around the house. He noticed the neatly folded clothes, the organized kitchen shelves, and the notes she left for Lily to remind her of homework or important school events. Every little detail reflected her care and attention, and he felt a deep sense of appreciation and humility. He realized that her actions weren't just about keeping a house in order. They were about creating stability, security, and love for his daughter. That afternoon, John decided to take a walk to clear his mind. He thought about how he could show Maria that her efforts were valued. Money couldn't capture the depth of gratitude he felt, and he wanted to find a way to express it that was meaningful. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that appreciation, respect, and acknowledgement could go further than anything else. He resolved to change the way he viewed and treated those who cared for him. When he returned home, he found Maria helping Lily with a school project. The way she patiently explained concepts and encouraged Lily's creativity brought a lump to John's throat. Maria's influence on his daughter's life was profound, and he felt an overwhelming sense of relief knowing that Lily had someone who genuinely cared about her development and happiness. John quietly joined them at the table, watching the exchange, feeling both humbled and inspired. After Lily went to bed, John sat down with Maria again. He wanted to have a deeper conversation about her life, about what drove her to help them so selflessly. "Maria, I want to know more about you," he said softly. "You've done so much for us, but I don't know much about your life or your dreams. I want to understand you better, because I feel like I've only just begun to see all that you've done." Maria's expression softened, and she nodded. "Sir, I've always tried to keep my personal life separate from work, but I'll tell you a little. I come from a small family and had to start working young. I learned early that life can be hard, and that sometimes you need to step in and help others if you can. I don't expect recognition or reward, but I feel fulfilled when I know I've made a difference in someone's life." John listened intently, feeling a profound respect for her. Her humility and dedication were striking, and he realized how rare it was to meet someone who gave so much without expecting anything in return. He felt an urgent desire to honor her efforts and to ensure that she knew her work mattered deeply. The next few days passed with a renewed sense of harmony in the household. John made an effort to express gratitude, to notice the details that had previously gone unnoticed. He found himself leaving little notes for Maria, thanking her for specific actions, and occasionally preparing small treats to show his appreciation. Lily, too, joined in, sharing her own words of thanks for Maria's patience and guidance. The house felt lighter, warmer, and more connected than it had in years. One evening, after a particularly long day, John sat with Maria in the living room. He reflected on the journey they had been through, together, the struggles, the silent sacrifices, and the moments of revelation. "Maria," he said quietly, "I've learned so much from you these past days. You've shown me that kindness and care often happen quietly, and that those acts can mean more than anything else. I want to be better at noticing, appreciating, and valuing the people around me. You've taught me that." Maria smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the quiet strength she carried. "Sir, that's all I ever hoped for. To see that my actions have mattered, that they've been appreciated, is enough for me. I only want the best for Lily and for you." John felt a profound sense of peace and gratitude. He realized that life was about more than managing responsibilities and enduring struggles. It was about recognizing the love and care that surround us, often in ways we might not initially see. Maria's quiet dedication had transformed not only their household, but also the way he viewed life and the people in it. As he went to bed that night, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew challenges would continue to come, but he also knew that with gratitude, attention, and respect, life could be approached with a lighter heart and a clearer perspective. He drifted to sleep thinking about the future, hopeful and inspired by the quiet acts of kindness that had touched his life so deeply. Knowing that Maria's selfless heart had changed everything for the better, the morning sun filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. John woke up feeling a sense of calm and purpose he hadn't felt in years. The past few days had been a revelation for him. He had begun to see the quiet kindness that had always been around him, and to appreciate the people who quietly supported his little family. The weight of worry and exhaustion that had once dominated his days felt lighter, placed with a deep sense of gratitude and awareness. He got up quietly so as not to wake Lily, who was still sleeping peacefully. The sight of her small face, serene and content, made his heart swell. He prepared breakfast with a newfound mindfulness, noticing how small gestures, pouring cereal carefully so none spilled, placing a napkin beside her plate, reminding her to wash her hands, felt more meaningful than ever. Each simple act was a moment of connection, a reminder of the love and responsibility he carried. After breakfast, John helped Lily pack her school bag and tie her shoes, sharing a few jokes to make her giggle. Then he kissed her forehead and sent her off to school, feeling a renewed sense of hope. He watched her run down the street, carefree and full of life, and felt a wave of pride and determination. He wanted to ensure that she grew up surrounded by love and support. It's not just from him, but from the people who truly cared for her. Back at home, John found Maria tidying the living room. He watched her work quietly, folding blankets, straightening cushions, and arranging little notes on the table that Lily had left for them. Every detail spoke of her care and dedication. He felt a strong urge to express his appreciation in a more meaningful way than he had before. "Maria," he said softly, walking over to her, "I've been thinking about everything you've done for us. Not just the big things, but all the small gestures that make our lives smoother. I can't thank you enough. You've been like family to us, more than just a helper in our home." Maria looked up at him, her eyes reflecting a mix of surprise and warmth. "Sir, that's kind of you to say. I never expected recognition. I just wanted to make sure Lily and you were okay. That's enough for me." John shook his head gently. "No, Maria, it's not enough to just know that. I need you to understand how deeply I appreciate everything you've done. I want to show it in ways that matter." Maria smiled softly, and John could see a hint of emotion in her eyes. He felt a surge of determination. He decided that, today, he would do something special for her, a gesture that would communicate his gratitude and acknowledgement of her sacrifices. Later in the day, after work, John returned home carrying a small gift he had prepared for Maria. It wasn't expensive or extravagant, but it was personal. It was a handwritten letter expressing his gratitude, alongside a small bouquet of flowers. When Maria saw him, she looked genuinely surprised. "For me?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. John nodded, handing her the gift. "Yes, Maria, this is for you. I wanted to make sure you know that your efforts haven't gone unnoticed, that we see and appreciate everything you've done for our family. You've been our silent strength, and I want to honor that." Maria took the gift, her hands trembling slightly. She opened the letter and began to read. Tears welled up in her eyes as she read his heartfelt words. John watched quietly, feeling a profound sense of connection and fulfillment. He realized that this simple act of acknowledgement was as powerful as any financial reward or material gift. It was a recognition of her humanity, her care, and her selflessness. After reading the letter, Maria looked up at him, her eyes glistening. "Thank you, sir. I don't know what to say. This means more to me than anything. I've always wanted to help, but to feel truly appreciated. That is special." John smiled, his own eyes misty. "You deserve it, Maria. You've given us so much without expecting anything in return. It's time we returned a little of that love and care to you." That evening, the three of them sat together for dinner. The atmosphere was warm and filled with laughter. Lily shared stories from school, and Maria offered gentle encouragement, guiding her with patience and love. John felt a deep sense of peace, realizing that their little family had grown stronger and closer. Through the trials they had faced and the kindness they had shared, after dinner, John and Maria stayed behind in the living room while Lily went to her room. John wanted to have one last conversation to ensure that she knew how valued she truly was. "Maria," he began softly, "I want you to know that from now on, you will always be part of our family. Not just as someone who helps, but as someone we care about deeply. Your kindness and dedication have changed our lives, and we are forever grateful." Lydia's eyes filled with tears and she nodded, unable to find the right words. John reached out and gently took her hand. "It's okay if you don't have words. Just know that we see you, we appreciate you, and we love you as part of our family." For the first time in years, John felt a complete sense of peace and fulfillment. He realized that life was not just about managing responsibilities and enduring struggles, but about noticing and valuing the people who quietly support us. Maria's selfless acts had reminded him of the beauty of human connection, the importance of gratitude, and the strength of silent love. That night, as he lay in bed, John reflected on the journey they had been through. He thought about the challenges, the small victories, and the moments of revelation. He knew that life would continue to bring obstacles, but he also knew that with gratitude, awareness, and appreciation, they could navigate anything together. Maria's quiet heart had taught him that kindness and care often come from unexpected places, and that acknowledging it could transform lives. As he drifted off to sleep, John felt hope for the future, a renewed sense of purpose, and an unshakable appreciation for the people who had touched his life in ways he had never expected. Maria's secret had left him in tears. Yes, but those tears were not just of sadness. They were of profound gratitude, love, and a deep recognition of the beauty that comes from selfless acts of kindness. And in that moment, he knew that their little family, strengthened by compassion and care, was ready to face whatever the future held. Together. Life did not suddenly become perfect after all the kind words and warm moments they had shared. Real life never works that way. But something inside the house had changed. There was more understanding now, more honesty, and more quiet respect between everyone. John felt it every time he walked through the door after work. The air felt lighter, as if the walls themselves were no longer holding in stress and worry. One evening, a week after everything had come out, John came home earlier than usual. Lily was sitting at the table drawing, and Maria was in the kitchen preparing a simple meal. The sound of soft music played from a small radio. John stood there for a moment, just watching them. It felt peaceful, but also fragile, like something that needed care to stay this way. He sat down beside Lily and looked at her drawings. There were pictures of the three of them holding hands. that made his chest feel tight in a good way. "These are beautiful," he said softly. Lily smiled. "This is us," she said. "You, me, and Maria." John glanced toward the kitchen. Maria was stirring a pot, unaware of what Lily had said. He realized how deeply she had become part of their lives, not by force, but through steady care and kindness. That was not something money could buy. Later that night, after Lily had gone to bed, John asked Maria to sit with him in the living room. He had something on his mind that he could not ignore. "There's something I need to talk about," he said gently. "Not because something is wrong, but because I want to be honest with you." Maria nodded and sat across from him. Her calm presence made it easier to speak. "Since everything came out, I've been thinking a lot about the future," John continued. "Not just about work and money, but about this home, about us. I don't want things to go back to how they were before, with everyone carrying their worries alone." Maria listened quietly. "You should never have felt you had to hide what you were doing," he said, "and I should never have been so unaware. We both made mistakes, but we also both care about Lily. That matters more than anything." Leah looked down at her hands. "I didn't want to make things awkward," she said. "I was afraid you might feel uncomfortable knowing I had helped like that." "I was uncomfortable," John admitted. "But not because of what you did. Because I realized how alone I had made myself, and how alone I had made you feel too." There was a long silence between them, not heavy, just thoughtful. The next few weeks brought new challenges. A big repair was needed in the house. The car had trouble starting. Work became more demanding. But this time, John did not feel like he was drowning alone. He talked more. He asked for help. He listened. Maria, too, felt more relaxed. She no longer felt the need to hide things or quietly solve every problem by herself. When something came up, she spoke about it. Sometimes they solved it together. Sometimes they laughed about it. Sometimes they simply accepted that not everything had a perfect answer. One afternoon, Lily came home from school, upset. Someone had teased her because her clothes were old. John felt anger rise in his chest, but he stayed calm. He listened. Maria sat beside Lily and gently brushed her hair, reminding her that her worth had nothing to do with what she wore. That night, John realized something important. The real gift Maria had given them was not money or help with bills. It was the way she made Lily feel safe and valued. That was something no check could replace. A few days later, John made a small but meaningful change. He arranged his work schedule so he could be home earlier, more often. It meant less overtime and less money, but more time, more presence, more moments that mattered. The house began to feel less like a place people just passed through and more like a place where they truly lived. One evening, the power went out during a storm. They sat together in the living room with candles, telling stories and laughing. Lily fell asleep between them on the couch. John looked at Maria and saw a quiet strength in her eyes. "Thank you for staying," he said softly. She smiled. "This is home," she replied. And in that simple moment, John understood that sometimes the biggest changes in life do not come from loud events or big surprises, but from small choices made with care. Choices to notice, to listen, to be present, to love. The story did not end there, because real life never really ends. But it became something better, something honest, something built on trust instead of fear. And that made all the difference.